Right now, right now. 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 Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. Well, what happened? It's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been getting bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live, guys. This is your week daily morning show where we bring you the latest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, technical, on-chain, and fundamental analysis. And in today's episode, we've got a major announcement. As you guys know, we have been paying very close attention to the crypto corporate empire, the colossus of crypto, DCG Digital Currency Group, over the last several weeks, especially ever since Cameron Winklevoss, who is one of the Winklevoss twins who founded and runs the cryptocurrency exchange Gemini, fired his first shot across the bow at Barry Silbert, the CEO of DCG. Well, the reason Cameron did that was because Barry Silbert's DCG owns a company called Genesis Global Trading and also Genesis Global Capital. There's a whole corporate mashup going on there. The news for today, and this broke at about 2 p.m. yesterday in a very, very, very small article on Bloomberg, but now it's blown up and everyone's talking about it, is that we are very much likely to see a bankruptcy filing coming out of Genesis within the week. Now, this has not been confirmed. Genesis themselves has not released this. I want to make this very clear from the get-go that this is one of those stories that is a unconfirmed sources. But what we do have is a confirmation that DCG halted all of its shareholder dividends just a couple of days ago. And as we talked about on yesterday's stream, that's normally something that you do right before your company goes bankrupt. So we're going to be talking about DCG. We're going to be talking about Genesis, Cameron Winklevoss, and the massive quagmire that just opened itself up in cryptocurrency in the middle of our golden opportunity that we've been talking about. Bitcoin's been rallying so well. We've had the stock market rallying. We've had the Dixie coming down. We've had a bullish CPI report. We had a bullish PPI report, down 1.6% on goods yesterday. We've even seen hopes that the Fed is going to start hiking rates at 0.25 basis points rather than 0.5 basis points. And on February the 1st, we'll probably see a 0.25% rate hike. All of those were very bullish sentiments, very bullish stories that would have given us some sort of excitement, some sort of hope that we were going to see a major rally. On this news, Bitcoin has, understandably, fallen about $500 to $700. So we're going to start out by looking at the actual news itself in the first segment of today's show. And then later on, about halfway through the hour, we'll start taking a look at the actual technicals of everything that's going on. But let's go ahead and read some chat. We've already got 200 people in chat here. Wow, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This is a major crypto bankruptcy, and Genesis Global Trading is a major part of crypto. So let's go ahead and read the first person that dropped a chat. As you guys know, we read the green names every day, and we also read whoever was first. So I highly encourage you to go ahead and smash that like button, but also hit that post notification bell so you can be first and you will get a shout out. Today it is, oh my. It's oh my. Good morning, fam. Hashtag FinSolve, you said. Welcome to the chat. Really appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. We got Mike Lowry in chat as well. A blue name, one of our lovely moderators, said, good morning, my coffee and crypto friends and family. Hashtag FinSolve. Smash the like button and subscribe to @CryptoJebb if you're not already. Let's go. Thank you so much for the hype, Mike Lowry. You should have another career in being a hype man. We got Crypto Smitty in chat. Said, good morning, y'all. We got Justin Eubanks in chat. Said, good morning @CryptoJebb. We got CBD Suddy. Said, good morning. Crypto Smitty again said, West Coast Living. Justin Eubanks in chat saying good morning to everybody. CBD Suddy, Win People saying good morning. What's up, man? Jojo in chat said good morning, everybody. No Hat.
The hat's right here. It just doesn't really work with the headphones. And also, funny story, I actually did a poll yesterday as to whether or not I should wear the hat on stream. And 60% of you said no. So, I mean, what do you want me to do? This is 352 votes, one for every day of the year almost. And 60% of you said no. So we gotta go with the we gotta go with the majority opinion. And we also got our first hate comment on the hat yesterday. Somebody said the hat is tacky. So that took a while. That means it's a good hat if we finally got a hate comment on it. But yeah, no hat for today. But it is sitting right here, keeping itself nice and warm. Green names in chat. Many of the green names in chat, but there's also a green name named Green Name in chat. Said good morning all and Jebb. Hello. Let's see who else we have. We have Matt C in chat. What's up, Matt C? Thank you so much for tuning in. We got Flavio Goncalves in chat. Said hello, hello. Let's see who else. I think we got everybody. All right. SobyToby86, welcome to the channel. Yes, welcome to the channel, Mr. SobyToby86. Said, hey, first time here. Is this a good time to buy Ether and Bitcoin? Depends on when you're, how long you're planning on holding it. What I would tell you, Mr. SobyToby86, that's a cool name. What I would tell you is that it depends on how long you're planning on holding both of those assets. I think both of those assets are phenomenal investments for the long term, whether you're trying to buy them and hold them for a week, or whether you're trying to buy and hold them for a month, or whether you're trying to buy and hold them for a year, or whether you're trying to buy them for a decade, is really going to inform that question. Are you trying to buy it for a day? Maybe not the best news. Maybe not the best news coming out today to indicate that you should buy crypto today, because this is pretty bearish, what we've seen come out over the last about 16 hours or so. But in the next 5 years, I think Bitcoin is going to slot into the massive shakeup in geopolitics that we've seen around the world with the collapse of Russia and China and the remixing of the entire global supply chain around a deglobalized world. I think you're going to see Bitcoin doing very well in that territory. So depending on the time frame, depends on your answer. Short term, I'd be careful. I am Miss Soby Toby. There you go. Okay. Hi, Miss Soby Toby. And if you are planning on buying it for the long term, I think now is a wonderful time. In fact, I think it is a very good time. With that said, as I talk about on this stream, we like to talk about crypto. We like to talk about geopolitics. We like to talk about economics. But one of the things that we also like to talk about are characters. That's a major thing. That's a major theme in crypto. It's a major theme in economics. It's a major theme in history, which is something we also talk quite a bit about. It's a major theme in the macro environment and in geopolitics. And one of the characters on the board today is none other than this guy, Genesis Global Trading. And give me 1 second because there we go. Ruined my intro. Genesis Global Trading. This is a very short little article because it's actually this video. Watched this video earlier. I've already said everything that's in this video, so we don't need to watch it. But essentially, Bloomberg reported at 2:14 p.m. Eastern yesterday, the crypto firm Genesis is preparing for a bankruptcy filing. I will read the one sentence here, the two sentences here that they have in this article because this is mainly a video. Genesis Global Capital is laying the groundwork for a bankruptcy filing as soon as this week, according to people with knowledge of the situation. It's the lending unit of digital currency group Bloomberg's Sonali Basak reports. So there you go. Essentially, Genesis is planning on a bankruptcy filing. And if you have not been following the story, you can see a lot of what has been going on over on Cameron Winklevoss's Twitter. Cameron Winklevoss has been firing metaphorical shots across the bow at Barry Silbert and DCG for quite some time now. This was the first letter. We covered this in the stream back on probably January the 3rd. This is essentially where Cameron Winklevoss was firing his first shot at DCG, and then his second shot was packed with a lot more explosives because he told the board of directors that Cameron Winklevoss is insisting that Barry Silbert, the founder and CEO of DCG, be removed from his post and be replaced by someone else because of, and I quote, accounting fraud, as you can see alleged right here, was taking place inside of Genesis, and Gemini, being a counterparty of Genesis, has been basically out $900 million. So let's back up in case you don't know the story. Drop a 1 in chat if you need a little bit of a refresher about what's going on with DCG. I'll try and paint the picture as well, but also as quickly as I can so we can get on to today's news. Essentially, DCG, Digital Currency Group, is one of the most powerful companies in the entire cryptocurrency space. It was founded many years ago by a guy named Barry Silbert, who had a career in Wall Street. He founded this company essentially to make as much money as he could in crypto. And, you know, that's why a lot of people are in crypto, is make a bunch of money. He founded this company, and this company ended up growing exorbitantly. It bought another company called one that you may be familiar with, Grayscale. They hold 600,000 Bitcoin at the time of recording. This would be worth somewhere around, 15 to $30 billion, somewhere in that range. Quite a lot of Bitcoin they're holding. DCG also owns the likes of CoinDesk, and they also own Genesis Global Trading. Genesis Global Trading is the lending arm of the DCG empire. So if somebody's trying to basically borrow money or trying to make investments, a lot of times they're going to do business with Genesis. Well, another company, not to be confused with the other two names, Grayscale and Genesis, Gemini, just think about the constellation, it might help, or the space mission. They had $900 million loaned to Genesis so that Genesis could turn around and provide them with an APY interest rate so that the Gemini Earn program could make its users about 7.4% APY so that they could basically earn money. Well, a couple of days ago, the SEC decided that, I think it was January 12th, so a week ago, the SEC unsealed some charges and some investigations that they're going to hold against Gemini and against Genesis. So the SEC is coming after both of those companies right now for that Earn program and for the way that that lending was taking place. The problem is there are a few things that went wrong with the finances at Genesis. Number one, and this is the most obvious problem, they had $175 million on... Can you guess before I say it? FTX. They had $175 million on FTX. So they had a balance sheet. They have a balance sheet somewhere in the $1 to $10 billion range is what it would be listed on in the bankruptcy filings because they add a zero for the range. In the $1 to $10 billion range, $200 million almost was on FTX. Obviously, they don't have that money right now, and they probably won't get it for a very long time, if ever. So that's where the contagion comes from. The other issue is that Genesis, allegedly, according to Cameron Winklevoss, was doing some kind of fishy trading having to do with a now bankrupt hedge fund called Three Arrows Capital that went bankrupt back last summer. Well, that essentially left a $1.2 billion hole in Genesis's balance sheet. So they lost $1.2 billion from Three Arrows Capital's trade that they were doing to try and make money for Grayscale. It was all very shady. And then Barry Silbert's DCG essentially loaned them a promissory note, except that promissory note was going to be paid over the course of 10 years. But on the books of Genesis, they had recognized that $1.2 billion promissory note as $1.2 billion in the bank. You don't do that. They're being promised to be paid $1.2 billion, $1.1 billion over the course of 10 years, and it was logged as if it was all in the books right then. That's obviously a form of accounting fraud because that's not the way that works, and they very well knew what they were doing, is what seems to be the case. So, with the $1.2 billion hole that DCG was going to fill over the course of a decade, which basically means they had nothing. They still had the $1.2 billion hole. With FTX being out $175 million, and also with many of their assets being down dramatically following the FTX collapse, there is a huge hole in Genesis Global Trading's books. They can't afford to pay back Gemini's $900 million. They can't get back their $175 million from FTX. They can't get back their $1.2 billion from Three Arrows Capital, and they're owed $1.1 billion from DCG because DCG said that they would give it to them, but they don't really have that yet. And then there's also another $575 million floating around out there. We're just not even going to touch that right now. The point is their books are completely screwed because they were mixed up in a ton of different companies, and pretty much every single one of them has shafted them. DCG was going to fill the hole. They're going to do it over the course of 10 years. They owe $900 million to FTX. To Gemini. FTX owes them $175 million. Three Arrows Capital made them lose $1.2 billion. So when you have a company bleeding that much, eventually they bleed out. And so a couple of days ago, I think it might have been yesterday actually, DCG came out and said they're not going to be giving out dividends on their stock earnings to their shareholders anymore. And I told you when that happened that that's one of the first signs of bankruptcy, because the last thing you want to do as not necessarily a publicly traded company, but a company with many different shareholders, is to tick off your shareholders by removing one of the incentives that they had to buy your stock in the first place, because then they're going to try and sell the stock and get rid of it, causing sell pressure, dropping the price of your stock, meaning that the market cap of your company goes down, causing the market capitalization to debt ratio of your company to go upside down, because your market capitalization has gone down so much that in ratio to your debt, you now have a worse market cap to debt ratio. On top of that, you can't sell stock to raise money through selling stock to shareholders through some kind of fundraising round. So then you have to turn to debt. So your debt goes up, your market cap goes down, and then that's when you start moving towards insolvency, essentially. That's not the position you want to see DCG in, because as I said, DCG is one of the single largest companies in the entire cryptocurrency space, especially when you consider all of the fiefs that it has, all of the different tributaries that it has, if you will. We're looking at Grayscale. We're looking at a mining company, which I'm not going to get into right now. We're looking at Genesis. We're looking at CoinDesk, the largest publication in the cryptocurrency industry. This is a big story. So the question on everyone's mind is this: how is Genesis going bankrupt? Which is more than likely going to happen. How is Genesis going bankrupt going to impact the cryptocurrency market? For that, let's go ahead and jump into our market pulse. We turned it around a little bit today. As you can see, Bitcoin is up 15.44% over the last 7 days. Ethereum is up 10.85% over the last 7 days. Both of them up over 25% year to date. That is lovely. We've seen Bitcoin and Ethereum doing very well for themselves. The question is now, can they continue with that when we have, as we talked about, a major cryptocurrency company going bankrupt? That would be the question. We've got Binance doing relatively well, despite everybody thinking that DOJ's news was going to be about Binance yesterday. It was about a smaller company called Bitzlato. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Excuse me, I am still sick, so I'm trying to get over something. But Binance is down 4.69% today on the news. Bitcoin down 3.07% today on the news. And Ethereum down 4.13% today on the news. XRP sitting at 38 cents. 38 and 2/3 cents, down 1.85% on the news. Cardano down 6.06% on the news. And a lot of this is relatively unfortunate, because if you'll remember to yesterday, Bitcoin was on the very brink of attempting to go through a major rally. It was on the very brink of trying to break above $1 trillion. When we look at the year to date, in fact, let's just look at the 1 year chart on total cryptocurrency market capitalization, you can see Bitcoin has bounced around here around $1 trillion quite a bit, and it's gotten above $1 trillion quite a bit. We've sat down here in this region around $1 trillion for quite some time, but following the FTX collapse, we dropped well below $1 trillion, and instead of floating around $1 trillion, we fell below $1 trillion, and now $1 trillion is a major level that we're going to have to break through. With yesterday's news, we saw $30 billion worth of the cryptocurrency market be evaporate overnight. And that's where we see these drops coming in on Bitcoin and crypto. Two things here. Number one, Bitcoin has seemingly, we'll start off with the pessimism and then go to the optimism, because I am somewhat optimistic. Number one, we've seen Bitcoin have a drop out of its rising wedge, and this technically was always supposed to happen, although the sentiment was pointing us to the upside. This was one of these stories where we're like, look, if nothing happens, if something doesn't hit the fan, metaphorically, then Bitcoin should go ahead and break out, because the sentiment was just bullish, upside yesterday. The problem was we knew that some things were brewing in the background. This is what I was telling you guys about. We had DCG. This is exactly what we talked about 2 days ago, is that Bitcoin looks like, from a multiplicity of different factors, it looks like it has a very strong opportunity to go through a rally. That being the S&P 500, the Dixie, that being the CPI, the PPI, the effective federal funds rate, and the general sentiment of increased arms going to Ukraine, and the idea that the world is going to be more stable if Ukraine wins. However, there was a bit of a knock to that as well, which we'll talk about later. Unfortunately, several things came in that were far closer to home than Russia, Ukraine, and the effective federal funds rate, and DCG was one of them. So we saw yesterday, towards the afternoon, that we started to see a correction on the market here. Actually, this was relatively earlier in the morning. This took place around 10 a.m. This was right around the time we were live. And towards the end of yesterday's stream, I said, well, look at this. It may be that Bitcoin is not even able to hold up here. And then right here is where we saw the news from Bloomberg that Genesis Global Trading is likely to go bankrupt. The thing is, I don't know if Genesis Global Trading going bankrupt is actually priced in yet. The reason I say that is because the news broke and Bitcoin did basically nothing. That could mean two things. Number one, it could mean that Bitcoin just completely shrugged it off. Or two, it could mean that it hasn't actually been confirmed yet, so people are not actually shorting the market based off of it yet, and people have not actually lost their money. And three, there's another component here. Genesis is not really a customer-facing company. We're not looking at an FTX where you have 1 million creditors who are trying to get their money back, probably 5 million people that have money on the platform. Genesis going bankrupt does mean that 340,000 Gemini Earn users are probably never going to get their money back, and Gemini Earn might go bankrupt. But it doesn't necessarily imply that a ton of users on the customer side of things are actually going to feel the pain of this, because this is more of a behind-the-scenes bankruptcy that is going to lead to a massive amount of restructuring. That's if Genesis goes bankrupt. The question actually, however, is, are we going to see Genesis bring down DCG and Grayscale? Because if that happens, then you're seeing a $4,000 drop on Bitcoin within the span of 2 weeks. Let me say that again. If Genesis goes bankrupt and that brings down DCG, and there's enough commingling, as Cameron Winklevoss accused, between Genesis and DCG, and then also between Genesis and also Grayscale, if there's enough commingling and all of the entire empire has to go down, if Genesis goes down, then you're seeing a much larger catastrophe, because Grayscale holds about 5% of all Bitcoin in existence that's ever been created. Not even including Bitcoin that's been lost. Bitcoin that's ever been created. They are holding that much. We don't know that's going to happen yet. So there are two very, very possible scenarios right now. So far, over the last 24 hours, it seems like Bitcoin is kind of shrugging off the news. That gives us some confidence in the bulls, that, okay, the bulls maybe are able to sustain this market, and they don't really care if Genesis goes bankrupt, because the writing was on the wall there. We saw it coming anyway. On the other hand, it is also possible that Genesis goes down, and this has not impacted the market yet, but it's going to. And when it does impact the market, it is going to have a huge impact on the market, and it's also going to bring down the rest of DCG, which could cause a major catastrophe. Here's my take. Right now, Bitcoin is still sitting in a golden opportunity, and I'll remind you why. If we look at the SPY and the Dixie, we can see that Bitcoin is perfectly correlating, except for the last 2 days, with everything that it needed to see a major rally. We saw the S&P 500 rallying. We saw the Dixie going down. Two things with that, however. First of all, the S&P 500 is dropped overnight. That's not very helpful, because part of the thing that was rallying Bitcoin was the fact that the S&P 500 was rallying, and people were hoping that this downtrend was going to be broken and the S&P 500 was going to be able to break above. That didn't happen. Right now, the S&P 500 is undergoing a correction. We really need to see what happens here, because there's a huge amount of uncertainty going on in the stock market. If we see a major break to the upside in the stock market, you will almost certainly see Bitcoin following. Right now, though, the S&P 500 is retreating. The S&P is down about $10 over just the last 2 days. So that's making things a little harder on Bitcoin also. But nevertheless, the point is that Bitcoin is more or less, even with the S&P 500 dropping a little bit, considering everything else, still sitting in a bit of a major opportunity. The S&P 500 is still generally moving up. It still does have very strong support. You can see that trend line right here. If it falls down, bounces, and then rallies, then great. And then also the Dixie is continuing to retreat, while we also see things like the CPI are doing well. We also see things like the PPI are doing well. That's a producer price index. We spoke about that yesterday. And then we also see the effective federal funds rate more than likely going to come in at 25 basis points, which would be very conducive to a rally on Bitcoin. So again, the takeaway here is, how are we going to see Bitcoin respond to DCG going bankrupt? This is the defining moment in the future of this bull market at the moment. If DCG holds on and doesn't go bankrupt and goes through a restructuring, great. That's wonderful. As someone just said in chat, we're in perfect time for tax refunds. People are going to be dumping money into the market. And you could see a huge rally, considering the Dixie is going down, considering we're seeing the United States anyway stabilize geopolitically, economically, supply chain wise, and we're seeing the massive amount of onshoring of the industrial capacity that the United States needs back to our own shores. That is going to prop up the middle class and allow the middle class to have more money so that they can go ahead and invest into crypto. That's a wonderful thing. However, if DCG goes bankrupt, we don't know that DCG is going to go bankrupt. We seem to be pretty confident that Gemini is. How is the market going to respond to that? We don't really have too much of a paradigm for that other than FTX. If we see another FTX, then you're going to see the price do what FTX did again. But remember and be confident in the fact that after Bitcoin crashed following FTX, it took 2 months and we had recovered all those losses. That's a bullish thing. Love to see that. All right, we're going to go ahead and read chat here for a couple of minutes, and then we have quite a lot to talk about on the fundamental side of things, and we also have quite a lot to talk about on the charts because I want to show you some more of the charts as well. Let's go ahead and see what you guys are saying in chat. Soby Toby said, Mike Lowry, thanks for your answer, and Crypto Jebb for answering my questions. I'm looking for long-term and will start DCAing buying after Genesis bankruptcy. Yes, I wouldn't blame you for holding off a little bit because we are in an era of quite a lot of uncertainty right now. For sure, we don't know whether or not we are going to see a major bankruptcy or not. It's possible that Gemini goes into talks with some people, raises some liquidity, and they don't go bankrupt. That's possible. However, unlikely, it is possible. But I definitely understand the sentiment of wanting to hold off until you have a little bit more confidence. Jarat, I'm not sure. Jarat said, I may have missed a stream. Jebb, did you ever make your third round of investments, or are you still waiting on the market? I didn't, and I decided to stay liquid in cash on that instead so that we could expand things here at the channel, just work on some things, and also so that we had more money sitting on the sidelines if we chose to dollar cost average in the event of a new bull market. I'm pretty happy with the amount that we ended up putting in. If you don't know what he's talking about, I set aside a lump sum of money for an investment in the bottoms on Bitcoin, and also Bitcoin's way too high now for me to invest with the targets that I had. We bought in at, I think, 18,800 and then also at 16,200. I split 3 rounds of investment up into 3 cryptocurrency investments for each of those rounds. 50% into Bitcoin, 30% into Ethereum, 20% into Cardano. We did the first round fully. The second round, we did half of it, which means half of the total amount that we had allocated was invested. The other half was still sitting in cash reserves, and that's where we're going to keep it for right now. By the way, if you guys are enjoying today's stream, do me a favor, smash the like button. Let's see if we can't get to 250 likes here before we wrap it out. Our household's sick for third time in 4 weeks. I feel you, Jebb. Yeah, it's real, man. It is really hard. My throat is very scratchy right now. I'm really having to push through. The Twins about to be screwed over again. Yeah, I really feel bad for them. Big FUD title, but Bitcoin does not care. Yeah, that's the wonderful thing. Bitcoin is still doing a great job despite it. Let's get the bad actors get caught and drop the market for us little guys to get a good deal. By the way, who wants to hear about that DOJ announcement yesterday? Go ahead and let me know in chat. Drop a 1. What's your stop loss? Don't have a stop loss on those investments. Those are not trades. Those are investments, so I'm holding on to those for dear life. I'm hodling. Did you just say Gemini is going to go bankrupt? That is what is being reported according to insider sources. Not my insider sources. This is what Bloomberg is reporting, that they will be announcing a bankruptcy this week. So time will tell whether or not that is a true statement, but that's what seems to be taking place. And it would make a lot of sense. They are in a lot of trouble. All right, let's be honest. Unless will happen a major catastrophe in the long term, crypto and stock market will be flying back up. Patience is the key, folks. For the most part, I would agree with that. One thing I wouldn't totally agree with is that the implication that there hasn't been, excuse me, did I say Gemini? I'm sorry, Gemini is not going bankrupt. Gemini Earn might go bankrupt, but Gemini is not going bankrupt, at least right now. They are under investigation by the SEC, but who's going bankrupt is Genesis. I do apologize if I misspoke. As far as the Marcelo Original, is it Marcelo or Marcelo? Marcelo Original, the major catastrophe, there is a major catastrophe going on right now in global markets, and it's called the deglobalization of the entire world. That is going to turn some things on its head, and that is going to fundamentally shift the way that the economy works forever, and we don't really know how that's going to look yet. All right. Let's keep moving on here. We have some other things that we want to talk about. First and foremost, let's cover this story that came out yesterday. This was scaring a lot of you guys. A lot of people saw that DOJ was going to be announcing a major cryptocurrency enforcement action, and people were worried that they were going to come out and say something about Binance, or they were going to come out and say something about Crypto.com. Well, they came out after Bitzlato. Can you believe it? Bitzlato. They came after Bitzlato. Who's ever heard of Bitzlato? I certainly had never heard of Bitzlato. I made a video about this yesterday. If you want to watch it, I would encourage you to, but I'll just go ahead and let you know it's kind of a nothing burger story. FinCEN, which is the cryptocurrency enforcement team. FinCEN, well, that's actually, sorry, this is FinCEN. This is something else, but we have CNET. That's the cryptocurrency national enforcement team, was a part of this. List Binance among top Bitcoin counterparties of Bitzlato. And that's really the reason I'm showing this story, because I talked about this yesterday. But essentially, FinCEN is saying that Binance was a major counterparty to Bitzlato, meaning that Binance could have been mixed up a little bit in the contagion of this. Bitzlato isn't very big, so contagion from it is not going to be that dangerous. However, it is a factor. FinCEN placed Binance next to the darknet market Hydra as a major counterparty receiving Bitcoin from Bitzlato. That will probably warrant some investigation. We need to keep a very close eye on that, because if CZ gets arrested by the DOJ and prosecuted and thrown in jail, and Binance is banned from the United States, whoo-wee. That's going to be bad. The United States Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, a bureau of the Treasury Department, has argued that Binance is linked to the illegal cryptocurrency exchange Bitzlato. In an order published on January 18th, FinCEN stated that the Binance cryptocurrency exchange was among the top 3 receiving counterparties of Bitzlato in terms of Bitcoin transactions. According to the authority, Binance was among the biggest counterparties that received Bitcoin from Bitzlato between May 2018 and September 2022. Other counterparties included Russian-connected darknet market Hydra and the alleged, what are we in, the Marvel universe, and the alleged Russian-based Ponzi scheme known as Finico. FinCEN noted. On the other hand, FinCEN did not mention Binance's top 3 sending counterparties to the order. According to the document, the biggest Bitcoin senders to Bitzlato between May 2018 and September 2022 were Hydra, Finland-based crypto exchange Local Bitcoins, and Finico. So I'm not really too concerned about this, but this could lead to some kind of investigation into Binance. So Binance, hopefully everything is squeaky clean over there. I would not mind actually having some investigation into Binance to see if we can actually trust them or not. We'd like to believe we can, but FTX has obviously caused a crisis of confidence in the cryptocurrency industry. But something to point out here is that it kind of makes sense that Binance would be the top receiver of Bitcoin from Bitzlato because they're the largest cryptocurrency exchange. So this is not necessarily something to say that Binance did anything wrong. It's just that it's like saying, oh, a hacker used Google. Google's mixed up in this hacker's activity. Well, everybody uses Google, duh. He's going to use Google. So I wouldn't be too worried about this, but that's just a little bit of a story that you may see floating around. I wouldn't worry that much about it. All right. DOJ charges tiny crypto exchange Bitzlato with money laundering after teasing major crypto announcement. We've pretty much already covered this in a lot of detail. Bitzlato is basically done for. You've probably, again, never heard of them. DOJ, ladies and gentlemen, we got them. Literally everyone. Got who? Binance? Binance? What? No, of course not. The massive Russian crypto exchange you all use. Bitzlato. What are you talking about? That's pretty much what happened yesterday. But one good thing that did come from that press conference yesterday was that they did do an enforcement action against somebody that probably there needed to be an enforcement action done against. That would be CNET, the Cryptocurrency National Enforcement Team, and then FinCEN and the DOJ and the FBI and some French officials arrested the dude in Miami, and he's now sitting in some jail in New York City, I think. That hopefully will send a message to the big money players that could or could not be stepping into the cryptocurrency space that, okay, the United States federal government is going to take crime in the cryptocurrency market seriously, and they are actually going to pursue it, track it down, and make sure that it does not continue. My question would be, where were you with FTX? FTX was a far larger case. Why are you chasing Bitzlato, this tiny little cryptocurrency exchange that seemingly needed to be shut down based on what's reported was going on in some of their internal documents? Where was CNET? Where was the Department of Justice on the FTX matter when CNET is a couple of years old now? FinCEN is 30 years old now. Where was the investigation into FTX? Why did this take this long to show up what happened to FTX? Frankly, there's a lot of big companies in cryptocurrency that need to have an investigation done on them. FTX was obviously one of them, but there may be more. And there may be more that are, wolves in sheep's clothing that we don't know about. There could be another massive company out there. DCG, I'm sorry, I just had to clear my throat there. There could be another massive company out there that is doing things that they shouldn't be. And there's a branch of the Department of Justice out there that's designed to track this down. So hopefully they're looking into these things. The SEC has already launched an investigation into Genesis and Gemini, which is good. But we definitely need to see people following the law in the cryptocurrency space. Now, the law needs to be written in a way that's conducive to the growth of the space. I'm not saying we should overregulate the industry, but the way that you have an industry grow, especially if you're trying to get big money players and people in their 50s who are investing for retirement to get into the space, is by ensuring that the cryptocurrency industry is one that is going to operate by the letter of the law and not try and skirt the law, because that's how you get 90% of the money to say, we're not touching that because we don't want to be mixed up in money laundering and drug dealing. Anyway, hopefully that will end up working itself out. So that's some of the major news stories today. There is one more thing that I wanted to talk about, and I don't have an article for it, but I'll go ahead and let you know. This is more on the geopolitical front. You guys know that on this channel we like to cover crypto, but we also like to cover stocks, history, economics, geopolitics, many of those different fields. And one of the things that was announced yesterday is that at Davos, which happens in Switzerland every year, this is one of the largest financial conferences of global leaders in the world. Three key things happened. Number one, Russia was not present for 2 years in a row. Happened in March of last year. Russia wasn't there because they were basically excommunicated from the party and said, go have your own party. We're not playing with you anymore because of the Russian-Ukrainian war. They weren't there again this year at Davos. If you don't know what Davos is, this is basically a place where you have the major oligarchs, major world leaders. You have CEOs from huge pharmaceutical companies, huge oil companies, huge every kind of company come here. You've got all the Fortune 500 guys in one room, and they're all trying to make deals to figure out how they can make more money so they can figure out how to run the economy. Well, normally what happens is everybody goes over to Russia and says, hey, can we buy cheap food from you? Hey, can we buy cheap oil from you? Hey, can we build a car plant in your world, in your country? And Russia says, sure, we love business. We love making money, and forget the little guy. We'll just go and make a ton of money because we're all massive oligarchs that have huge yachts. They weren't there. That was the first story. Russia not being there is a pretty big deal because it's actually showing the world that, wow, doing business without Russia is hard because Russia has a ton of stuff. It almost feels like we're back in the Cold War when we had to figure out how to do everything without the raw resources sitting on 15% of planet Earth, which are sitting under the ground in Russia. So that's one thing that was learned from Davos yesterday. The other thing, and this is probably one of the biggest developments from Davos, was the fact that German Chancellor Olaf Scholz came up on the podium and pretty much stated that Germany will not be allowing re-export of Leopard 2 main battle tanks to Ukraine. Myself and many other analysts of geopolitics and cryptocurrency and everything have said that over the next few weeks, you're likely going to see Germany announcing the ability for other nations that hold Leopard 2 main battle tanks to go ahead and export them and re-export them, because they imported them, and re-export them to Ukraine, and Ukraine would likely see a flood of a couple hundred main battle tanks. Olaf Scholz said that they want to ensure that when they do maybe allow that to take place, then they want to make sure that's part of a larger cohesive strategy involving all of the allies inside of NATO, to which President Volodymyr Zelensky said, you are insane. People are dying. We need help. Send them now. So he kind of called in on a web link like an hour later and is like, what are you talking about? We need tanks. And then you had another announcement from someone, I forgot who it was, someone high up in the government that said that Germany will not allow the re-export of Leopard 2 main battle tanks until the United States sends M1A2 Abrams main battle tanks, which the United States is very much trying not to send because that is one of the highest technology pieces of military hardware that the United States owns that operates on the ground. So we're not talking about F-35 Lightnings. We're not talking about F-22 Raptors. We're not talking about Ford-class supercarriers. We're talking about anything on the ground. The M1A2 Abrams is one of the most advanced pieces of military hardware in existence. So the United States has been very skeptical to send that to Ukraine, but Germany basically said, well, they got to do it first, and then we'll do it. So we'll see what happens there. That's a mistake. I will be very blunt on that. That is a huge mistake not to send Leos over to Ukraine, because if they don't get tanks, they're not going to be able to recapture that land. Russia is likely about to announce, and probably is already in the process of mobilizing 500,000 new men. Those 500,000 new men, when there's no tanks to crash through their lines, can overwhelm the Ukrainians, who simply don't have that much manpower, although they do have better equipment. The Ukrainians need the equipment to make up for their lack in manpower and for the fact that they're the ones being invaded. They're the ones whose homeland is basically in tatters right now. I still think Ukraine has a very strong chance of winning this war, especially considering even if they don't have main battle tanks, they got just about everything else in droves. But they do need the tanks. So hopefully the 14 Challenger 2s that the UK is sending them will tide them over until Germany pulls his head out of his butt and it decides, yeah, we're actually going to help Ukraine so that the Russians aren't knocking on Poland's door. Germany definitely doesn't want anyone knocking on Poland's door again because they're trying to cover the sins of the past. Anyway, that's kind of the story from Davos. And like I said, the first point, Russia wasn't there. Second point, Olaf Scholz said there's no Leopard 2s going over to Ukraine. And also the third point is the Volodymyr Zelensky basically was like, what in the world are you talking about? This is stupid. And it is. It's done. Okay. Let's read chat here for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to go ahead and jump into some technical analysis on Bitcoin and crypto. Really appreciate all of you for tuning in. Go ahead and smash that like button if you haven't already. Let's see if we can't get to 250 likes here in the next couple of minutes. I am so upset I can't use Bitzlato anymore, said no one. Should I make Bitzlato t-shirts in protest, lol? That's funny. Okay. Let's see. Do we have a taxation problem or a spending problem? We have an efficiency problem. Taxes are not evil and spending is a good thing and if it's done in the right way. But if you're not doing it in the right way and you're wasting a bunch of money, then there's your problem, as the plumber once said. I don't hate billionaires when they are calling for higher taxes on themselves, just when they try and take $1,000 out of my pocket to put $10 in theirs. Ukraine is strong on defense. They need equipment to start offensive moves. That's, for the most part, accurate, yes. We got a whole tax debate going on here in chat. Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting stuff. Love to see it. Love to see some debate going on in chat. Just keep it civil. Trying to save face after letting FTX run rampant for so long. Yeah, that's probably what that was about. Love you, Jebb. That's why I asked. Sorry, what did you ask? I think I'm lost. Did you say Gemini is going to go bankrupt? Oh, you're the one that asked that. I apologize. I am a capitalist. Me too. Spending is the problem. We get taxed directly or indirectly by inflation. Yep, that's right. All right. Let me collect my thoughts here. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next segment. We're going to look at Bitcoin. Let's see. How do we want to do this? Okay. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a look at the chart of Bitcoin, and then we're going to look at all the corroborating factors that could lead Bitcoin into a rally or a correction. We've got the bullish and the bearish, and we're going to analyze them both. Let's start out on the short term and expand into the long term. Over the last several days, or the last week or more, actually, Bitcoin had been in this ascending triangle pattern, and this ascending triangle pattern had given us confidence that Bitcoin would likely rally to the upside. Well, yesterday, around the time of this stream, Bitcoin actually broke bearish out of this ascending triangle pattern, and then we saw the news that Genesis, was likely going to go bankrupt. That has led Bitcoin into this little bit of a slump. However, there's a couple of things I want to note here. Number one, let's go ahead and take a look at Lux Algo. Just look at where the Lux Algo EQ cloud is. We've actually fallen below it, but we're even coming back up to test it. On top of that, and these are bearish things, but we're going to see bullish things as well, you can see that the trend catcher has gone below the EQ cloud. If you guys don't know what Lux Algo is, you absolutely need to get it. It is my favorite technical indicator by far. I've been doing technical analysis and using hundreds of technical indicators for about 5.5 years now. Lux Algo is hands down, far and away, my absolute favorite. And no, I'm not saying that because they are a sponsor of this channel, which they are. We have an affiliate link down below. I'm saying that because I absolutely love it, and I'd love it even if I had never even met Sean, the founder of Lux Algo. I love this technical indicator. We see that the trend catcher has fallen below the EQ cloud, indicating we've moved into a period of mourning for the rally. No, I'm kidding. A period of downtrend. If we also look at our reversal zones and the actual signals, then what we're going to see, if we just go ahead and let that load, is that there is a confirmed sell signal on the hourly chart. We did bounce down into the reversal zone and then bounce out of it. The fact that we fell down into the reversal zone and bounced out of it indicates that the downtrend could be over at least for a short time. If you want to see Bitcoin go back to the upside, then what you're going to need to see happen is you're going to need to see Bitcoin break above this line at $21,000 for about 4 reasons. Number one, 21K is a psychological barrier because it is a big even, is what we call it. $21,000, $22,000, $23,000, $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Those are all big evens. People typically use those bigger numbers as major levels of support and resistance. Number two, and this is the second reason, we've got to get above the trend catcher. The trend catcher is just about $50 shy of that. Number three, we've also got to punch back up here into the EQ cloud. And number four If we get through the EQ cloud, then we will likely see a buy signal and the trend catcher turn green again here on the 1 hourly chart, and that will lead us back to the upside. Those are the 4 reasons you want to see Bitcoin get above 21K if you're going to see a continued and sustained rally. If you don't see us get above 21K, you'll likely hit your head on it, fall back down into this reversal zone down here, and maybe come back and backtest $20,000 with a downtrend right here. That might not be the end of the world, though, because if we do see Bitcoin fall back down to $20,000, then what you may end up seeing is something called bullish RSI divergence, downtrending level of support right there, and we very well may see an uptrending level of support right here. That bullish RSI divergence coupled with a bullish MACD could end up leading Bitcoin into a rally after that short retracement down to 20K. That would likely see the rally taking place somewhere in the middle part of the weekend. Moving out to the 4 hourly chart, let's do our same analysis on it because things are a little bit different out here. First and foremost, the EQ cloud is huge out here. It's absolutely massive. In fact, it got so big that it fell all the way into the reversal zone. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. Like literally, I don't know if I've ever seen the EQ cloud get into the reversal zone. I've been using Lux Algo for 2 years. That's really cool. The other thing to keep in mind there is that the reversal zone's bottom is at 18,400. The top of it is at 20,300. If Bitcoin does go through that slight retracement down to maybe $20,000, it's going to catch the EQ cloud and it's going to bounce and rally because it's built so much support. And also, 19,700, which is just below 20, is a major level of support that we found back over here. And also, if we look at our VRVP, looking over the last several months of pricing data, we're going to see that there is quite a lot of support sitting here between 19,800 to 20,200. So again, about that $20,000 region, give or take $200 or $300, is going to be where we're going to want to see that rally bottoming out. On top of that, Bitcoin has fallen below the trend catcher, and it has seen a sell signal, but it has not seen confirmation of the sell signal because we're sitting right below the trend catcher, and the trend catcher has not turned red. This is the largest buy signal that we've seen ever since here. This is the last time we saw a confirmed buy signal because we saw the trend catcher turn green, meaning that all 6 of these signals are invalidated because trend catcher didn't confirm or fix or change any of them. Then we saw a confirmed sell signal. We saw a confirmed buy signal. These that I have highlighted here, these 4 circled, are the only 4 signals from Lux Algo that are confirmed by Lux Algo itself in the last 3 months. And they've all done a very good job. This sell signal, you can see, dropped Bitcoin all the way down to negative 24%. And by the way, that sell signal came in and was confirmed before FTX went bankrupt. We also saw an 11.3% rally here. We saw a 5.4% correction here, and so far we've seen a 22.98% rally here. So Lux Algo is doing very well on the 4 hourly chart. If we do see a confirmation of this sell signal, that will definitely be something to think about. But even if we do see a major correction, I could definitely see us dropping down to like $18,000 at most, bouncing, rallying. And then at the end of the day, if we do drop down to 18,000 and then bounce and rally above 21, you're sitting in phenomenal territory because there's a huge amount of volatility. There's a huge amount of liquidity. There's a huge amount of interest in the space. There's a huge amount of headlines. There's a huge amount of FOMO in the industry. And there's still a pretty big opportunity considering the way the stock market and the Dixie are operating. On top of that, Bitcoin needed time to correct anyway. We were sitting here on top of the reversal zone because Bitcoin rallied so fast. We needed to trade sideways, fall out of it. That doesn't mean we're going to go through a huge correction, but it does mean we need to correct. Okay, going out to the daily chart, things look even more bullish. On the daily chart, this is barely a blip. This is barely a blip. In fact, you could even on the daily chart argue this is a bull flag. And if you were to follow through on the bull flag, you could see the bull flag rallying us to $27,000. On the daily chart, this is nothing to be scared of at all because if you'll see, we're still in the top half of the reversal zones right now. So it makes sense that we correct a little bit over the next couple of days while the reversal zones rally over the next couple of days. It would make absolute sense, and it would be totally healthy for Bitcoin to go through a small correction over the next several days. There's nothing wrong with that at all. We're not going to go up forever that quickly and have no pit stop. We're going to need to pause every once in a while. On top of that, remember, the trend catcher is green. It is above a bullish EQ cloud. We've also rallied into the reversal zone. This is the first confirmed buy signal we've seen on Bitcoin since March of last year. That confirmed buy signal saw Bitcoin rally about 8%. Before that, the last confirmed buy signal was here. That rallied is 48%. Let me say that again. This is the second confirmed buy signal since the second part of the second part of the last bull market in October of last year. It's been a year and a half, or about a year and a third, since we've seen two confirmed buy signals ago. Because whenever a confirmed buy signal comes in on LuxAlgo's chart, it ends up being very, very bullish. So, what does all this mean? What does this mean technically? Well, very simple. Bitcoin is having a small correction right now. That small correction could drop us down into the $20,000 region. More aggressively, it could drop us down into the north of $18,000 region. Neither of those would be bad things. Both of those would be something I've talked about quite a bit that I like to call a controlled burn. Whenever you have a forest, this is something that foresters and forest management services, government agencies learned a long time ago, about 100 years ago, is that if you stop every single forest fire in a forest, what happens is that if you give it 10 years for all of those different trees to have limbs fall out of them, for the trees to die, for the detritus, the debris, the dead stuff to build up on the forest floor, and then you go 6 months without rain one year, and lightning strikes, tinderbox, the whole thing goes up in flames because you didn't have any control burns. And so what they realized is that you have to let forest fires happen every once in a while. You just want to stop them from getting out of control. It's not a bad thing to let 1,000 acres burn every once in a while, 10,000 acres burn every once in a while, so long as you don't get any houses, so long as you don't burn down the entire forest so the thing can, regrow, because you need some forest to repopulate the rest of the forest. And in fact, what happens is that when you let a forest burn, you actually return many of the nutrients in those trees, especially in that dead stuff, back into the soil, and you make the soil vastly more fertile. And then the next forest that comes in that territory is vastly more healthy than the previous because it's birth through fire. It's like a phoenix forest. Similar thing has to happen in crypto. You don't want an uncontrolled burn where you have FTX go bankrupt, Luna goes bankrupt. You don't want Luna goes down. You don't want all of those things taking place at once in an uncontrolled fashion, but it's not a bad thing to let it happen every once in a while in a controlled fashion. Let a correction take place. Weed out the bad longs that should never have taken place in the first place. They were building up support, but they weren't very strong. Allow people to get a little bit of a taste of profit in their shorts, and then they'll close out their shorts, buy them to cover them. Let people take some profits. Let people repurchase. Let people reestablish themselves. You don't want to have just this gigantic, massive uptrend all at once that's unsustainable, because it all happened at once. You want to see corrections every once in a while. So it's not a bad thing if Bitcoin corrects to between $18,000 and $20,000. And at this point, it looks like it probably will, especially considering Genesis is likely to go bankrupt. So that's one of the things I just want you guys to keep in mind, is that Bitcoin very well may go through a small correction over the next couple of weeks. But that's not a bad thing. That doesn't mean that we are out of the woods, metaphorically, on the rally. It doesn't mean that the potential of a bull market rally starting relatively soon is gone. What it means is that Bitcoin is refurbishing itself. It is resupplying. It is getting ready for the next movement up. That's what I would like to say. All right, let's go ahead and read some chat. Really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. Queen said, plant your seeds, and CBD Study said, and protect your seed phrases. Absolutely. Totally agree. I was thinking of starting a pressure washing business that cleans garbage cans in my local neighborhood, for instance. That is a great idea. I was just looking at our garbage can yesterday thinking, wow, I'm not looking forward to having to clean that. So that's pretty funny. I was just thinking about that yesterday. Not hating on it, just saying most poor people don't know tax laws or ways around it. Yeah, the thing you got to keep in mind is that the tax code is set up for those people that can afford a great tax lawyer or a great CPA, because it costs a huge amount of money to... I had a CPA when I founded the company, and nothing against this guy. It's just the way it is. He read through... He helped me set up the company and everything, and the original taxes and reporting and everything for payroll. And there's like... What? This would be July and August of 2019. And we were talking about how crazy the tax code is, and he said, yeah, it's about that thick. I haven't even read through all of it. The dude's been a CPA for like 20 years. He hasn't read the whole tax code. What, are we supposed to read the whole tax code? Like, come on, it's ridiculous. You need somebody to help you with it. Billionaires asking for more taxes should be a red flag. They could just pay more on their own, but don't. It's normally a as far as I'm concerned, it's normally a virtue signaling thing because the billionaires, they value their reputation a whole lot more than they do their money, because money for a billionaire is very easy to come by. They can spend a bunch of it and give a bunch of it to Uncle Sam. And they'd rather do that if they can be viewed as the public as one of the good guys who says, raise taxes, we want bigger government. All right, we got a lot of conversation going on about clear value tax. And make sure at least one trusted person knows where to find your seed phrase. That's a good idea. If you have a very powerful, not a very powerful, a very strong relationship with that person, like a spouse or an oldest child who's, 18, 20, 30 or something like that. Use QuickBooks like FTX. Yeah, there you go. That's funny. All right, we're going to read chat here for the last couple of minutes. You guys go ahead and give me any questions, any comments, anything you'd like me to talk about here towards the end of the stream. A little bit of update on us, guys. I know you guys have been wondering, like, what's going on with the baby? Like, we're trying to get set up as much as we can. We did have a piece of exciting news, more than likely last Friday, and that is that more than likely we were actually incorrect on the due date, because the due date that we were going off of, April 20th, for our daughter, was given to us by the very first ultrasound, but it wasn't corroborated by anything else. There's a lot of different ultrasounds, different ways that you can calculate a due date, and pretty much every single one of those other ways calculated the due date around April 4th to April 6th, which is pretty exciting because that means that she's 2.5 weeks further along, which means that if she does come premature, well, she's 2.5 weeks further along, and she's also over 2.5 pounds by now, or probably right around 2.5 pounds. So we're really excited that our daughter's doing well. We're excited to meet her, but we want to make sure that she comes at the right time. But as far as symptoms and everything, things are still pretty difficult on our front, but we're hanging in there and starting to figure some of it out. So, baby could be coming any day, but more than likely she'll be here in a month or two. Let's see. Legalese is used the same way the Roman Catholic Church used to use Latin, not understood by the populace and wielded unfairly by the elites. That's a good way to put it. That is a good way to put it. And before you go, the hat, I wear cowboy hats, Stetson, recitals. Take your hat to Boot Barn or Cavendier's or some other custom hat shop and have them steam it and shape it for you. They will steam it for free. Interesting. Okay. There's a Boot Barn here in town. Might do that. That's pretty cool. That's such a great name, Boot Barn. Boot Barn. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Fence off Sarah. But guys, I'm just really excited about this year, thinking about the overlap between Bitcoin and how Bitcoin is going to operate in the new world. In 1991, George Herbert Walker Bush, around the time of Desert Storm, announced that following the collapse of the Soviet Union, that we were entering something that he called the New World Order. And in this New World Order, the United States was going to guarantee global shipping. It was going to guarantee the security of the vast majority of the world, and everybody was going to work together, and there was going to be a lasting peace, and the United States was going to be the, as being the last remaining superpower on the planet, it was going to be the facilitator of this lasting peace. And other than the war on terror, that's pretty much what we saw. We did see a lasting peace. We did see globalization. We did see the largest golden age of global economic prosperity in the history of mankind. But now that is starting to fall apart as Russia has become aggressive again, which they've always been aggressive, but now they're actually starting to do things about it. China is turning into a one-man puppet state dictatorship, which is doing some very horrible things in their West. And you're also seeing pretty much their demographic and Russia's demographic collapse following stupid policies that were put in place by their communist predecessors, which they're basically still communists anyway, but by their communist predecessors back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, their demographics are up a creek now. So I've been really interested in studying the relationship between the geopolitical advancements and developments and changes of the world, the economic developments of financial and monetary policy in the United States, and the cryptocurrency market, and how all of those things impact Bitcoin and crypto. So if you're interested in learning more about that, this is the channel for you. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Maybe consider liking the video. It really helps to support the channel. And also stay tuned, because we have more content coming out relatively soon that's going to help you guys learn more and more and more about this cryptocurrency industry. Really appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. I'm going to read a couple more chats here, and then we're going to wrap it out. When she comes, I'll be super chatting, so you can give her a nice lovey. Oh, you mean our daughter? Oh, thank you. CBD Study said, my son has a lovey he takes everywhere. What is a lovey? What? Oh, it's a blanket? Oh, Sarah's mouthing it's a blanket. Is that it? It's a family blanket? Oh, it's a blanket with a stuffed animal attached to it. Okay. You can tell that this is the first time that I'm going to have a newborn. We have a 2-year-old, but I unfortunately wasn't around at that time just because Sarah and I hadn't met yet. But so I'm really excited. This is going to be my first experience with it, with having a newborn. Look it up. That's the plan. Doubt it'll pass, though. For those that haven't heard, the House is trying to do it, abolish the IRS. The House is trying to abolish the IRS. That's interesting. Doubt that'll take place. Anyway, guys, that is going to have to wrap it out for today's video. I really do appreciate everything that you guys have done to support us and this channel, and I'm really excited for the next phase. This year is going to be awesome. I'm really, really pumped for a lot of the things that's going to take place this year. A lot of cool announcements coming up, a lot of projects we're working on, many different ways that we want to help you to become more financially sovereign every single day. But like I said, that's going to wrap it out for today's video. Make sure to sign up for Lux Algo with the link in the description box down below. Use coupon code Jebb, Jebb, for 20% off at checkout so that you can go ahead and start using that in your technical analysis as I do here on the channel. Before I go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, though, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.